an dara ceist sunrí úndó, moving on to the second priority, I seachta Aodhán ó Ríordáin.
Minister, just want to give you the opportunity to inform the House of any movement that was made yesterday in the budget regarding fees payable to criminal barristers in light of the ongoing dispute and the withdrawal of criminal barristers from criminal proceedings in the courts last Tuesday.
Thank you, Deputy. Well, look, I'm happy to be able to give an update on progress that has been made on this issue. I want to fully recognise the important role played by barristers and solicitors in the administration of criminal justice, both in the context of working to defend those who are accused, but also working with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution in respect of prosecutions. And I do want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the ongoing cooperation and flexibility shown by the legal profession in working with government and working with the courts to try and improve overall efficiencies, to create a more victim-centred system, including through a number of actions to give effect to the supporting a victim's journey, which was the first plan that I published to support victims of domestic and sexual violence going through the courts, but also implementing the family justice strategy and the overall modernisation programme that's happening in the courts. The criminal legal aid scheme, which has operated since the 1960s, is absolutely vital to our criminal justice system. How it's administered by my department, which is the responsibility for making payments, has the responsibility for making payments under this scheme. I can assure the Deputy that this has been a priority for me and my department, and I'm pleased to inform you that 10% in fees has been increased to barristers and solicitors under the scheme, and that was agreed in the context of yesterday's budget. I want to make it clear that this 10% is the starting point in a much wider process. It is the first step on a pathway to further engagement with the profession and with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. In conjunction with the increase in fees, the intention is to try and build on the strengths of the criminal legal aid scheme, while obviously addressing any issues relating to how it's structured, and that engagement will now begin with the legal profession for the purpose of working together to try and identify reforms to the fees, including automation of payments, which I know is something that has been raised certainly with me a number of times, which will support improved efficiency and governance in the administration of the scheme. And this is all really with an intention of creating a pathway that we have fairness in the level of fees that are being paid under the criminal legal aid scheme. I think these are necessary reforms. I think they will help further support the reforms that are being introduced in the criminal legal aid bill more generally. But again, I'm pleased to be able to make these changes, but I stress this is the start in the process, and I look forward to engaging with the associations.
Well, Minister, I might say to you that if that had been flagged to the Bar Council 2 weeks ago, we wouldn't have had the loss of an entire day of criminal cases. They were not in any way knowledgeable of any move by government to do any sort of restoration of fees. And I think if you had said to them 2 weeks ago what you've just said to me now, we wouldn't have had their day of action, which was flagged on the 12th of July. Now, as outlined in their budgetary submission from the Bar of Ireland, it says in September 2008, non-payment of 2.5% increase per public service pay agreement. March 2009, reduction of 8% in fee levels at the same time as FEMPI cuts. April 2010, reduction of 8% in fee levels at the same time as FEMPI cuts, and October 2011, reduction of 10%. And they haven't been, they're the only people standing in the courtroom whose fees have not been restored. So could you give me some kind of a timeline as to when you expect for the full restoration of fees, as others have had?
Thank you, Deputy. Yeah, look, I appreciate, depending on the type of work that's been done, you have the two 8% cuts and then 10% each in the lower and the higher courts. So if you're somebody working in both courts, that's obviously a much higher cut. If you're somebody working in perhaps the lower cuts, the restoration that we have introduced and that we allowed for in yesterday's budget goes nearly halfway to responding to those cuts. But as I said, this is the start of a process, and what I want to make sure is that we have a fair system in place that allows for fair restoration for those who provide a very valuable service to the state. As you know, Deputy, what I can't do is confirm a budget before the budget happens, but what I made very clear to the associations in the different ways that I've met them and from various events they held to speaking to individuals, I made it very clear that this was a priority for me in the budget, that I was engaging with the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform. But I do appreciate they felt the need to continue with the protests. Obviously, I wished that it hadn't gotten to that point, but I understand why it happened. The most important thing here now is that the budget has passed. There is a 10% restoration here, and most importantly, beyond that, I'll be engaging with them to see what more we can do, looking at the overall structure as a whole.
No, Minister, not good enough. You could have prevented it from taking place. July 2018, a detailed review process led by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution said this: all parties are in unequivocal agreement that the ongoing flexibility being delivered by Prosecuting Counsel, documented above, is considered comparable to the flexibility delivered by other groups to justify the reversing of cuts imposed during the financial emergency. And that's 5 years ago, and it was written in conjunction with your department and sanctioned by the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. So the point here, Minister, is this was well flagged 5 years ago. It was flagged on the 12th of July. It still took place on the 3rd of October, causing untold disruption to our court services on that day, the delaying of very, very serious court cases. We know about a sexual assault case that couldn't go ahead last May because of the lack of a senior counsel. This was flagged. This should have been communicated to the Bar Council. We didn't need to have that day of action last Tuesday. So again, a timeline, please, for the full restoration of the fees.
Thanks, Deputy. Well, look, I'd agree this has been going on for too long, and that's why I was really pleased to be able to make progress for the first time in this year's budget just yesterday. Again, it's not possible for me to confirm to any organisation what may or may not be in the budget. What I can certainly do, and what I certainly did in this instance, was reassure insofar as I possibly could that this was a priority, that this is something that I was working on, and that I was actively engaged with my colleague in the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, and he himself, I think, made it very clear that he supported and wanted to work with barristers and solicitors working in the criminal legal aid profession. It is important that we have young, new barristers and solicitors that are actually taking this path, and I know that this has been a disincentive for many people, and that's why it's not just about the restoration of fees, it's making sure the structure is correct, that the way in which they're paid, the system itself, that it's fair, that it's quick, that it's efficient, that people are not left waiting, and that they know there's going to be a decent pay at the end of the day, because when you look at the overall figures, a higher percentage would probably be taking in less than €50,000, those who are engaging in criminal legal aid cases. So I acknowledge this has been an ongoing problem. That's why I'm pleased that we've made progress, but I do again stress this is the start of a process, and I'll be engaging immediately with the associations to make further progress as quickly as possible as the timeline that I give you.